Okay, what we're going to be doing in this video is demonstrating how to prep a model in Max ready to go into Mudbox. In Max, what we want to be able to do is this particular model is a low poly model, okay, and it's all built together as one model. So it's an advantage for us to prep it before we go into Mudbox by dividing it into individual pieces, okay. So when I select by element, you'll see the body is all one thing. And I want to actually split this model up into individual parts. And then after we paint it, then we can come back in. Now we have some hide and unhide buttons over in our control panel, but it's a pain to keep going over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and customize our interface so that we can hide and unhide at a sub-object level in the striking menu. So the first thing I want to do is to make a new menu, and I'm just going to call this one sub-object display. Okay. And then I'm going to put those tools that were over on our control panel. I'm going to put them inside of this menu. Okay. So once we make the menu bar, then we go down in here and we're going to pick it. Okay. So anything that's over in our control panel over on the right hand side, or the majority of things, can be put inside of a, menu. So we're just making a new menu. So we'll go scrub down to where it says sub-object display. Now, see where that says end of menu? You have to actually pull above that. Now I'm going over here and I'm picking editable poly object. That way I'm only going to drag the things I see from there. And so we're going to bring the hide and unhide, and then we'll want to go down to the use and unhide all, and we're going to put them inside of this. Okay. By doing that, then they'll be inside of my striking menu. Okay. And what we're doing is taking these buttons that are over here on our menu and we're putting them in our striking menu. Okay. So now once I have that menu, I want to put it in my quad. Now the upper right quad is a display quad, and you'll see we have hide and unhide, but those only work on objects, not sub-objects. So now over on the left at the bottom where my menus are, I'll go down to sub-object display, and then I'll drag and drop that over here right by that. And then I'll put a separator to separate those. Now what that does is in my right click menu now, I'll have those menus in there. So instead of having to go over to the control panel over on the right, I can just do it by the center striking menu. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is come in here. And we want to start, let's cut the hand off. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm picking these polygons here and hiding on the arm. That way I can get to where the junction is between the hand and the arm. Then I'm picking the edges. Now I'm holding the control key down and adding to the selection. And you can try your loop command sometimes to pick these. Now I'm changing my revolve, so it's going to revolve around a point that I'm putting in here so that I can just spin right around the hand. Okay, so like I said, the control key adds to your selections. And what we're trying to do is to select the ring that is a junction between the glove or hand and the arm all the way around. It has to be a complete selection all the way around. And once I have that selected, I can go over and hit the split button, which is under your edit edges, and that splits that. Okay. Okay. So now I can do an unhide all. Okay. You have to be in a polygon mode. Unhide all. And now you'll see I can go over to elements and I can pick that hand, and now it's a separate element because I've split the geometry between those. Now later, if I wanted to put it back together, all I'd have to do is select all the vertices and weld them with a 0.01 radius, which is coincident vertices, and I can weld it back together. But really what I'm doing is this is going to be a kind of a dummy model. This is a copy of the original, and then I'll go in here and cut this model up to individual pieces. And then after I've painted the texture map and used Mudbox to paint on it, then I can just apply that texture back to the original model that's not cut up, and then it's ready to go into a game engine. Okay. If you hold down the Alt key, you can deselect edges. So when I was using the loop, it was selecting some areas I didn't want it to select. I want to add this little, I'm going to get rid of that one, add that one, and then that's my loop around there to split that. Okay, just making sure I've got the ring all the way around, because if it doesn't go all the way around, you won't split it apart. Okay, just double checking. And split. And now that arm will be a separate piece. So if I go to elements, pick the arm, there you go. It's a separate elements. Now it's still part of the same object, it's just separate elements within the object. You know, if you're using Maya, you can't do this because Maya doesn't have the ability to have elements. So Maya is a little bit different. Okay. This process of, splitting it to elements, is only possible in Max. Maya doesn't have that ability. Okay, then that splits that t-shirt off from the vest. We can do the boots. So what you're trying to do is to make it so that we're easy to isolate different parts when you go into Mudbox. So when you're doing your painting, we don't have to mask. Okay. In Mudbox, you would have to mask. Like if I wanted to paint the boot and I didn't want it to go on the pants, I'd have to go in and isolate and hide the polygons on the pants. And that's a little pain to do. Okay. So it's really faster if you go in here and split your model before you bring it in so that every part is a separate object. And that way we can hide and unhide by objects to do our painting. Now, like I said, I'm just doing this on a proxy of the original. Okay. Because in the end, when I want it to go back in the game engine, I want it to all be one object. So, but for what I'm doing, when our painting, we can paint on the broken up model, and then we just apply that bitmap right back to the original model because they have the exact same mapping coordinates, and so it'll go on there. I could go back in and weld this all back together, but I probably won't. I'll just leave it as its own model. That way, at any given time, if I want to take it back into ZBrush or Mudbox and paint on it, then I can, and it's individual elements. Okay, so we split the pants from the t-shirt that's showing underneath the vest. And so now I'm going around and going to split that t-shirt from the vest. There you go. And split that. Now, I'm not going to divide the whole model up because you just kind of repeat this process, but I do want to do the head up here because it's a little tricky to do the head. So one of the things you want to do is, because of the way this collar is select some of the polys on the vest and hide those. So we're going to go in here and kind of hide the things because we can't really see down inside that collar where to grab those edges. So what we're going to do is just hide the collar by hiding at a sub-object level. Now you have to be kind of careful because it's easy to accidentally select part of the head and hide it too. So you have to be kind of careful. As a matter of fact, right there, see, you can see I accidentally grabbed part of the neck when I was hiding it. So I'm going to have to undo this to go back. So we'll undo it. There we go. And see, I need to deselect those parts. I accidentally picked those when I was picking. Okay, so now I can hide those. So by customizing your striking menu, you can speed up your workflow if you have things that you do repetitive. And this is something that I do all the time. So that's an advantage having it in the striking menu. And then I just have to go around and select this edge. Now you would think that you could use the border tool, because that looks like an open border, but it's not a border because it's still part of the other model. We just had the model hidden. So you have to select by edges, not by borders. Okay. Once I get that all selected, then I can split it. Then I can just unhide all. And then it's a separate element. Okay, so we got the hand. Now we might want to split those fingers so that it's easy to paint the fingers separate from the little glove that's in there. Because it's one of those kind of half glove in which that it doesn't have any fingers in it. Okay, I'm holding the shift key down to select there. I can select by angle. That's going to get me the whole finger. Okay. Looks like I've got a part of it in there, so I want to deselect, holding down the Alt key. Now, if I do Control I, that'll invert that selection. Okay, and then I can hide that. Okay, that's one way to do it, but it does have hide unselected in here. Okay, so when I have the object selected that I want, all I have to do is hit hide unselected and it'll hide the other part. Now I've got a little piece up there that's still part of the glove. Okay, I need to hide that. And then there's the finger. So to split it off, all I have to do is go up and grab those edges, loop it. Didn't get that last part, so I'll have to hold down the Control key and select that. And then I can split that. And then that finger is a separate element. Okay. So what we want to do now is, let's see. Okay, so that shirt is a separate piece. And then what we're going to do here is we want to detach it. So you go over and hit detach. And then I'm going to, it defaults to detach as a new object. I give it a name. Okay, something that makes sense. Okay. And now that's a separate object. And then I just go through and do detach, 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 and give everything logical names so that it's easy when I take it into Mudbox to understand what things are. Now, because we're going to do detaching, we could add that to our striking menu too. Okay, so if we go back to our sub-object display and we go, well, we're using detach quite a bit. Let's go ahead and just put detach in there too. Okay, you could also put your split button in there as well. Okay, so that you're speeding up your workflow because you're repeating the same actions over and over again. Okay, so there I right click and I can do the detach for that. Detach this hand. So by making those custom menus and then putting tools that you're going to use over and over again, that'll really speed up your workflow. Okay. You know, at first you're just trying to learn to be able to do the things that you need to do. But at a certain point, you want to be able to start speeding up your workflow because that's part of the industry is your ability to work efficiently. And so by making custom menus and custom toolbars and customizing your keyboard shortcuts and your striking menus, you can really speed up your workflow. And then we're going to detach the head. Okay, so you'll just keep going through that process till you've got everything broken down and split to anything that's logical that makes your life easier when you're taking it into Mudbox. Now, one of the things we're going to do here is the head has a mouth inside of it, okay? And so there's going to be an advantage if we split that off. So just hiding parts of it so it's easy to get down and see what we're doing. Okay, so we've got a little inside of the mouth in there. And I'm going to pick the face by angle and see if that will work, which it actually did a good job. So it picked the face. And then I'm going to hide that. I've got a couple other little pieces in here that's part of the face that didn't get picked. So we need to grab these. You'll see me going over there and turning on or turning off ignore back facing sometimes. It makes it easier to select things if I don't want to accidentally select something from the back side. Okay, so there it's isolated. So then I would just go in and select the edges, you know, like we have done before, and just keep selecting those and then split those, and then you'll have the mouth split off. Okay, then I just got to unhide everything. Okay, so now you've got individual pieces. And like I said, I'm not going to do it all, but you would just keep going until you had it all and then group everything. Once you get finished, you want to group everything so you don't accidentally move part of it so it gets out of sync with the rest of it. So you just pick everything and you group it, okay? So here's one I've already grouped and I've already broken apart that I did previously. And you'll see that I've got individual pieces in here and I've got them all grouped together and they're ready to go into Mudbox. And of course, all of this has already been unwrapped, already has its mapping coordinates, and it's ready to go into Mudbox. Okay, send to Mudbox as a new scene. Now, one of the things you need to make sure is that you set Max upright before you're modeling, because by default, Max defaults to inches, and every software known to man uses centimeters except Max. So if you don't set it upright, then when you're bringing your model in, it'll be gigantic, okay, or small, one or the other, according to how you set up. So make sure you've got Max set up for centimeters, and that way then your model will be the same size no matter whether you're sending it to Mudbox, ZBrush, Maya, or in a game engine, Unreal, Unity. They're all centimeters. So we just change Max to be centimeters and then it matches everything. Okay, so when I pick something, I can go up here and hit hide unselected, and now it's isolated that. And so then I can paint on this individually, okay? Now, Maya has speed keys, okay? U is show all, so U would unhide everything, okay? I select the model, the part I want, and then I'm doing hide unselected, and it will hide everything except for that part, and that's a quick way to do that. Now, you want to be sure that you're selecting the model when you're painting on it. And the reason you want to do that is it will default to rotate around an object that is selected. Okay, so if you don't have anything selected, it rotates around the center axis. If you have something selected, then it rotates around that object. But you'll see hide unselected doesn't have a speed key set to it. Okay, hide selected does, unhide all does. So if we go over here to Windows Hotkeys, we can go in here and customize it. And since we're going to be doing, using that quite a bit, we want to go down here and you'll see there's hide unselected. So I'm going to hit an H and then I'm going to go in and hit Alt. So Alt H, you'll see it's in here now. If I go up there, Alt H is hide unselected. So if I select a model, Alt H, and that hides it. So I've customized Mudbox to have speed keys that'll help us that way. Okay, I hope this helps you out.